This is a total body workout that is safe for all stages of pregnancy. This one is a little bit of a hybrid workout where we are incorporating the use of weights in a total body workout where we're using upper body and lower body evenly. So it's a little bit of conditioning, a little bit of cardio, all combined into a single practice. With that said, you likely won't be burning out any muscle groups. So you're not going to be moving the quads and the hamstrings into fatigue because we are using a lighter set of weight that we can move around pretty sustainably for the full 24-minute practice. With that said, in the movement tutorial, I'll guide you through the different modifications, different options that are available for each exercise, and also which exercises to use to determine your weight selection. So in these total body movement practices, ones that move pretty quickly, it can be cumbersome to be changing out weights, and it's helpful and more efficient maybe to have a single set of weights all the way through. So there's a few exercises that you might use as your limiting exercises, the ones that help you determine what your weight selection should be to sustain great form throughout the practice. So I'll guide you through those in the movement tutorial, which is at the opening of this video. During pregnancy, it is so important to simply listen to your body and to your baby. It is this open line of communication, and I love using your movement practice as that gateway, that invitation to really turn inward and to check in with how you're feeling. So even though this is a quicker practice, it's designed to give us that fluid state of motion where we're kind of continuously moving throughout. Still give yourself pause when you need, rest when you need to. You can switch to a single side in kind of the double arm exercises, modify as appropriate for you so this practice feels like it is your own. We want to help you drop into that flow state where you can tap into endorphins, which are such an excellent antidote to pain. They are mood boosting. So all of these qualities that we really want to cultivate naturally throughout pregnancy. As with all of our prenatal practices, the breath is an asset throughout. So make sure that you're creating that intentional exhale, that forceful exhale on the exertion phase, and that we're working with bracing the belly. So that means the hip points lift to the low ribs and the low ribs close to the hip points. As you do that, though, lift up through the heart. So you'll hear me cue those actions a lot throughout our prenatal series. You also want to pay attention to the positioning in your low back. So as belly grows, the curve in the lumbar spine gets a bit exaggerated. So especially today, as we take weights overhead, please be mindful of overarching in the low back. The way to counter that, the way to create balance is to gently move the tailbone toward the pubic bone and the pubic bone toward the navel. So you're not tucking and contracting. That can create compression in the lower back, but instead we're just creating that neutral spine so that you can lift weights and you're not compensating for any mobility gaps in the shoulders or the upper body by creating more mobility, more of a curve in the lumbar spine. In today's practice, I'd recommend going with something pretty light for your weight selection. For reference, I'm using a set of 10-pound dumbbells. You can use anything from wrist and ankle weights to 1-pound dumbbells, or you can be body weight only. Know that your body weight and center of gravity are changing daily. So that in itself provides some complexity, provides some load, so you can move through this practice and just take advantage of that circulation of the endorphins with body weight only. So make it work for you. We'll start with that movement tutorial and then we will get right into our warm-up. Let's quickly go over the 8 different exercises that we'll be using in today's workout. I'll first make a comment about the weight that you might use. So this is a total body workout. It's not designed to max out any particular muscle group, really designed more to just keep your body moving and add that little bit of resistance that will help elevate your heart rate and help you get stronger. What I would recommend is there's a particular exercise that includes a front press with the underhand grip. That is sort of the limiting exercise for this workout. So it's the one that will determine the weight that you can sustain with good form throughout the workout. So when we get there, I'll help you note that that's the weight that you want to use. Another way to approach this workout is to have maybe a lighter set and a heavier set of weights. So for some of the larger muscle groups like the chest and back, where we're combining with the legs, you can use that heavier weight selection to stay in the challenge that you might be looking for. Otherwise, you can stay with a single sustainable weight that'll carry you through the entire practice. That's what I'll be demonstrating today. So I have my set of weights. We'll take the dumbbells. Our first movement is an alternating reverse lunge with an overhead press. So in the overhead press, the weights start at the shoulder, so they're resting on the meaty part of the shoulder. And anytime you take the weights overhead, but particularly in pregnancy, we want to avoid arching the low back excessively. So that means curling the hip bones up toward the low ribs, drawing the low ribs down, and then lifting up through the chest. So imagine there's a ribbon connecting hip points and low ribs around the belly, and we're lifting the belly by taking the pubic bone toward the navel. Then you know you're braced and you can take the weights overhead. So we start at the top of the mat. It's a simple reverse lunge, nice short stance. The knee comes back to hover, and then we come up and press. We step back, come up and press. With the lunge, you want to try to keep the 90-degree bend in both knees so that we're nice and stable through the pelvis. So it's this close stance. Try not to overextend that back foot into a really wide lunge. Our next movement is the deadlift with alternating front raise. The front raise, one of those limiting exercises. So this is going to be one that will determine the weight that you can use sustainably throughout the practice. So first, with our Romanian deadlift, there's a micro bend in the knees. We have the feet parallel, hips and knees pointing forward, and it's a hip hinge. So again, we're bracing the low belly by lifting the hip points to low ribs. We keep the spine nice and straight, and it moves as a unit. We hinge at the hips, bring the weights to about mid-shin, maybe even just to the knees, then drive through the heels to come up, and it's a front raise. So as we take that weight away from the body, really important to brace the low belly so that we're not swinging the weight, we're not arching the low back, but it's slow and controlled. So we'll alternate sides with each deadlift. We lower down, we come up, front raise, lower down, come up, and to the other side. That is our second movement pattern. Our third movement pattern, this is the one that should tell you where you can be with your weight selection. It's a narrow squat with a static hold and press. So we come down, we keep that static curl in the weights, come down, bring your elbows about to your knees. So spine is nice and tall. This is a squat, not a hip hinge. So we're not leaning forward. And then we come up and we press the weights forward. Squat down and take the weights forward. Here, always the option to move one arm at a time if that weight gets heavy. So this one is going to be that limiting exercise, the one that determines the weight that you can carry throughout the practice. Our next movement pattern is an alternating lateral lunge with an upright row. So we come down into our lateral lunge, the weights are out in front, and we're taking the outside arm, rowing back. So it's a bent row with that outside arm. Then we come through center. We have our upright row. The weights come away from the body and out so that you can externally rotate the shoulders in that upright row. And then we move to the other side. Lateral lunge, row with the outer arm, come up through center, and upright row. In your lateral lunge, it doesn't have to be a huge step out, especially during pregnancy. We don't want to overstretch the joints and the ligaments in the pelvis. So it can be more of a shortened stance, and you're just sitting back into that chair. Here, you can have a slight lean forward to create that bent row and come through center, upright row. We move then into our sumo squat with a bent elbow raise. So sumo squat, legs are a bit further apart. Again, no need to really strain and get super wide. They can stay kind of in that a little bit wider than shoulder distance. Toes are turning out, heels are turning in so that your knees can track over your toes. We have the static curl again. So we're working the biceps, hugging the elbows into the sides. We squat down into sumo squat. The knees track over the toes and we come up, take the elbows out wide. Make sure your shoulders are not shrugging up. They're staying relaxed. Squat down, static curl in the arms, and then take it out wide. So you'll start to feel the shoulders working there. Our next movement is the alternating curtsy lunge with a bicep curl. So we come into our curtsy lunge, transition through center with your bicep curl, and then back to curtsy lunge. Bicep curl in the middle. It can be either a straight curl or a hammer curl, depending on your weight and just the positioning. Sometimes in pregnancy, hammer curl is a little bit easier because you're on the sides of the belly, as opposed to maybe later in pregnancy, it can get a bit crowded in the straight curl. So that one, again, we're just in the curtsy lunge with the weights down. We come through a mini squat in the middle with that curl and to the other side. Spine stays nice and tall the entire time. For our next movement pattern, I'm getting out of breath already. We're coming into a good morning with a tricep extension. For this one, drop down to a single weight, and we'll take the weight behind us into the meaty part of the shoulder. Before you get started, make sure your elbows are wrapping in. We're coiling the ribs down towards the hip points up toward the ribs, and then lifting through the chest. This one, again, is the hip hinge, like the Romanian deadlift. So we're here, we hinge, come halfway to where the spine is horizontal, and then lift up. Here at the top, tricep extension. Lower it down, hinge, press through the heels, and extend the hips with some power, and then drive that weight up. Squeeze the triceps at the top. So we're here, you can create that power in the hip extension, and then reach. Finally, we're coming into, like many of these practices, the tried and true wall sit. This is one of my favorite exercises, especially during pregnancy, because with or without weight, it will challenge your legs and help tone the pelvic floor. This one we are combining with an upper body exercise. So coming in carefully, mindfully into your wall sit, pressing the back into the wall. Here, we're just alternating with an Arnold press. So the weights start with the palms facing you. You take it out and around and up and back down. Out, around, up, and back down. This will add a bit of complexity because you're having to balance in the wall sit and stabilize the core. To come out, you can either set your weights down or take them to your shoulders and slowly lean forward to come out of the wall sit. That entry and exit in itself will provide a bit of challenge. Those are our quick 8 exercises that complete this workout. We're using 40 seconds of work and 20 seconds of rest, completing 3 rounds for a total of 24 minutes. The goal today is not to crush as many reps as you can in each interval, but instead move at the pace that feels challenging and sustainable for you, one that you can maintain throughout the practice, and that's going to give you a whole body movement, so whole body practice that you're using all muscle groups by the time we finish. So again, you can have your lighter set of weights and a heavier set, or just stay with that sustainable weight throughout the practice. Another way you can approach this type of workout is to use the structure provided in the description and just eliminate the intervals. So the timing, if it gets to be too much, or especially during 2nd and 3rd trimester, maybe you need more time to transition your body position between exercises, you can ditch the timer and just perform somewhere in the range of 8 to 12 reps of each exercise in each round. So that gives you an opportunity to slow things down, to go at your own pace, and to be aiming for reps rather than kind of condensing everything into that 40-second interval. With that being said, let's get started with our warm-up. Let's get into our warm-up for this total body workout. We want to just get the breath and body ready to move. So we're starting at the back of the mat with plank walkouts. You'll take a big breath in, reach your arms overhead. And exhale, take the hands to the floor, walk all the way out to plank. Find your strong plank, stretch the crown forward, and then slowly walk the hands back all the way up. Reach the arms overhead. Inhale. Exhale, take the hands down. Take it nice and slow, just kind of feeling into where your body is, how you're arriving to this practice. Walk it back and up, reach it overhead. We'll just do 2 more like that, coming down. So I love this kind of fluid, total body movement just to check in, to give you an entry point to the breath. Inhale, last one here. Take it down, walk it out, connect with the belly, and slowly come back. This time, as we reach up, we'll take it down and we'll come into downward dog. So walk your hands out to that downward dog, pedal out your feet. This can be a very gentle downward dog with the heels lifted, knees bent, just shaking the hips side to side for a moment. And then we'll start to add some movement. As you inhale, come into bear plank. So shoulders over the wrists, hover the knees, stretch the crown forward, and back up to downward dog. Exhale. Inhale, come down, connect with the belly. So you're shortening the gap between low ribs and hip points around the belly, and downward dog. 3 more like this. Inhale, come forward, bear plank, straight spine, and come back. So you're not arching in the low back as you come forward, but finding that neutral line from crown to tail. Back of the neck is long. Last one like this. Bear plank, come forward, and back to downward dog. So we'll walk the feet halfway forward, the hands halfway back. Take your feet to the wide edges of your mat so you have kind of a wide stance. Turn the toes slightly out, heels slightly in. Come into a deep squat here. Squat as low as you can, and then fold. Take the legs in the direction of straight. You might still have a very generous bend there. So we're just warming the knees, warming the ankles here. Forward bend. So again, doesn't have to be the extreme of either the squat or the forward bend. Just working to awaken the joints, awaken the lower body here. Reach it out and forward and fold. Such a great movement sequence, movement pattern for pregnancy to get those strong legs, knees, and hips. Last one here, squat deep and fold. You can heel toe the feet in just a touch and slowly roll up bone by bone to stand. We'll come into some hip circles next. So if you have a wall or a chair, something to create a little bit of balance, use it now. Otherwise, you can have your hands to your hips, and we're just taking slow hip circles one at a time. So we're experimenting with just a little bit of balance challenge. So shifting weight from one side to the other. If you have any pelvic girdle pain or SPD, this can be very aggravating. So we have practices designed specifically for those conditions where you're not creating that shearing force. But if you're pain-free, by all means, enjoy this balance challenge while opening the hips. You can switch directions, take it forward and down. It's a good brain activity, connecting left and right brain to help stabilize. So we shake out the legs, take both feet to the floor, and we're coming into now some upper body stretches. So we'll bring the arms to 90 degrees, palms facing forward in that closure. We'll simply take the elbows out, turn the palms down, the elbows stay up in a downward cactus, back up and close, squeeze the chest. Then squeeze the back to open, take the elbows down, hands down, elbows up. Find that bit of shoulder stretch, shoulder mobility, and open. Take it down. So really feel into any areas of the shoulder that might be a little stuck, a little tight, and just work into them here with a bit of breath. You can also start to create that bracing in the low belly. So rather than arching the spine, curl the tail under ever so slightly, lifting pubic bone to navel, and sort of closing that gap between low ribs and hip points around the belly. Last one, come up and close it out. Here, we'll take the arms straight out in front of you. Palms are pressing down. Create some engagement like you're resisting a load there. We'll swim back, elbows squeeze behind you. Take it up and down. So we're working the other range in the shoulder so that we can get our full mobility. We can get access to the full range of strength we have in the shoulder, but in a very stable way. So your shoulders with relaxin will already be a bit more lax. So we have to really focus on keeping the shoulder integrated. And that means when you're with the arms extended, you hug the heads of the arm bones back. That will keep the shoulder integrated so that you're not overstretching the supporting ligaments. Last two here, reach it up and down. Take it out, last one, and back. Up and come down. Shake your arms out. Come into a bit more total body movement here. You can take your feet nice and wide, and we'll come into an air squat. So a squat with a side bend. Reach your arm up and over. We squat it down, take it overhead. You can take a hand to opposite hip to create that engagement, that equal and opposite action there. Squat it down and side bend. Now we'll add a bit of rotation. So squat and rotate. Make sure you pivot on the back toes. As you move away from that back foot, you come onto the toes, finding that squat and rotate. We're working all planes of motion in the spine to warm the body from head to toe in preparation for your total body workout. Now we'll switch it up, come through center, hamstring curl. So it's a squat with a hamstring curl. We're firing up the backs of the legs now. Doesn't have to be super quick, but you can add a bit of speed if you want to find a little bit of elevated heart rate to warm you up before we get going. This is a great low impact cardio movement. It'll get your heart there every time. Last 3, 2, and 1. Take the feet nice and wide, alternating lateral lunges, just opening a bit of space in the inner thighs and trying to visit most of the movement patterns that we'll see in today's practice. So we've got that lateral lunge. We're finding it here. Breathe. Find that rhythmic pattern in your breathing where it's not shallow in the upper chest, but even as your belly grows, you're creating expansion in the lungs, space in the torso as things get crowded. Last 3, 2, and 1. Slowly step the feet together, shake it out. Let's take a big breath together. Inhale. And exhale, side out. That is your very quick total body warm up. And now you're ready to move. Now that you are warmed up, we will get right into our workout for today. You do have the option of moving with me in the timed interval structure. I'll get that started here. We'll start with our reverse lunge to overhead press in about 15 seconds. So you've got your weights. We're taking them very slowly and carefully up to the shoulders. And here we're simply stepping back with alternating legs and then pressing overhead. We will go in 5. Brace the belly, lift the hip points, ribs come down, chest is elevated. Let's begin. Take it back, press it overhead, back and overhead. You can always be in a single arm variation, doing one arm at a time, depending on how heavy your weights are. So we're driving straight up and then back down. The spine stays nice and strong, and it's not bending forward or back. It moves up and down. We've got about 12 more seconds here. Nice strong lunge. And again, not needing to move very quickly. This can be slow and controlled. Just looking to keep the body moving through pregnancy. So if you have an elevated surface, you can place your weights there or take them down to the ground or keep them in your grip during the rest period. We're coming into our deadlift with alternating front raise. Micro bend in the knees, brace the belly, lift the chest. Let's begin. Hinge at the hips. So the spine is straight and strong. Come to knee or mid shin, pull up and front raise. Lower down, hip hinge, drive through the heels to extend, and take the other arm. If you have lighter weights, you can be working both arms together in that front raise, or you can be alternating. Deadlift, drive through the heels, and front raise. Breathe here. So find that deep belly breath that expands the lungs even as they get crowded in the torso. Try to make room for that capacity. This is great breath training and rest. Coming into our narrow squat with a static curl and serve the platter. So I'm going to be going with opposite arms. If you have lighter weights, you can be working with both arms together. We have kind of a narrow stance, feet are facing forward. Let's begin. Squat it down, elbows to knees, take it up and press. Squat it down, drive through the heels, up and press. Going 2 arms, gonna see how long I can sustain that effort. So working the chest, the biceps here to press the weight out. Keep it controlled so we're not swinging or leaning back, not arching the back to take that weight out in front. Breathe. Here, switching to 1 arm at a time. As needed, take what works for you. Down and up, rest. Our next movement is the sumo with the bent elbow raise. So we take the feet slightly wider than the hips, slightly wider than the shoulders, and we come into that static hammer curl once again when we're ready. So heels are in, toes are out. We'll go in 3, 2, 1. Find that static curl. Bend down, track knees over the toes. Come up, take elbows wide. You got this. We're here. So again, try not to rush. Take it nice and slow. Squat down. Squeeze the heels like crazy to the midline as you come up. So you feel the inner thighs really light up as you drive to stand. Lift and out. Keep that static curl the whole way down and come up. So the upper body feeling a little spicy here already. Rest. Coming into the curtsy lunge with either your hammer curl or a straight bicep curl in between. So we start in the middle and we'll just move side to side. Coming into that curtsy lunge in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Let's go. Squat it down nice and slow, knee to the outside of that ankle. Curl through the center and come up. Curtsy lunge. Come through center, curl with a mini squat and back. Curl it up and switch sides. So you might start to feel by the end of this first round, a little bit of sweat collecting, a little bit of heat, but focus on your form, focus on control. So this is not a HIIT power workout where we're moving as quickly as possible. The goal here, as I said, just to keep the body rest in motion and to help your cardiovascular, your conditioning under that little bit of resistance. So I skipped the lateral lunge with the row. We'll come back to it now. Feet are wide. The toes can turn slightly out or be straight forward. 2, 1. We come into the lateral lunge, outer arm, bent row. Take the elbow towards the hip. Come through center, step together, upright row. We step out, outer arm drives elbow to hip. Come back through center, upright row. Weights come out and away from you. The belly's a great guide for the alignment in that upright row because you have to clear it. And that helps you keep the shoulders externally rotated. Elbow comes to the hip, back through center, upright row. We're here, stay with it. 5 more seconds. Come through center, upright row to the other side, and rest. We're dropping one weight here. Again, especially in the second and third trimesters, great to have a chair or a table nearby where you can put the weights down so you're not having to go to the ground between the exercises. Good morning. We're bringing the weight to the meaty part of the shoulder. Hug the elbows to the midline. Feet are parallel. Hip hinge. So that micro bend in the knee, and then press with the triceps. Weight comes overhead. hip hinge. Spine is straight and strong as we come down. So crown to tail moves as a unit. That will require that you brace the belly so that you're not compensating or adding an excessive arch in the low back. Press the triceps up. Here we go, 10 more seconds. Find some power through the heels in that hip extension, and then mirror that in the arms. 2, 1, rest. Coming out, prepare for the wall sit with Arnold press. If the wall sit is too much, you can always take this in a chair. You can be in a kneeling position or standing and just work through the Arnold press. Otherwise, we're slowly entering that wall sit, sliding down, hips and knees aligned. Palms are facing you, take it out and around. Really press through the heels, curl your tail slightly under so you're lifting the tailbone toward the pubic bone just a touch. It's not tucking the tail, but it's creating that stable positioning, stable alignment in the pelvis so that you can keep the legs working through this entire interval. Take it overhead, around and up. We've got 10 more seconds of round 1. Stay with me. You got this. You are so strong. Last one here. Be careful as you come out. So you can take the weights down and slowly lean forward to come out of that wall sit. We're coming straight back to the top, our reverse lunge with an overhead press. Bring your weights to the shoulders and know that you can always ditch the weights altogether. You're already working with a changing load. Let's begin. Step it back and up. So during pregnancy, body weight movement, body weight practices become loaded practices because the load, your center of gravity, is changing. It's adding that dynamic quality, the added balance and stabilization that's required. So there's lots of work to be done in the unloaded variations. So you can be just taking the arms overhead and finding that power. Stepping back and driving up. Last one. And rest. We're coming into our deadlift with the alternating front raise. So the feet are parallel. We're lifting the hip points toward the low ribs and straightening up through the upper back. Press your shoulder blades onto your back. Let's go. 3, 2, 1. Take it down just to knee or shin height to the maximum hip hinge and come up front raise. So as your belly grows, your hip hinge might not come as far down, and that's okay. Make space for what matters. Lower down, come up, and front raise, incorporating the smaller muscle groups in the shoulders here. So this workout is not by any means going to completely fatigue or burn out your legs, but instead we're focusing just on that fluid movement to elevate your heart rate, rest under that little bit of resistance. Coming into the narrow squat with the static curl to serve the platter. So again, you have the option here to move single-sided only if the weights are getting a bit heavy like they did for me. 3, 2, 1. Find your static curl, narrow squat, elbows to knees, come up, press it forward and back, down, up, reach, and come back. So feel the biceps working as you take that weight on the long lever arm out away from the body. It's requiring a lot of strength in the shoulders and the upper arms. You got this. Come up and back down. So driving through the heels, squeezing the legs to the midline as you rise and rest. So I won't skip the lateral lunge this time, which coming straight into the sumo squat with the static curl after those is a challenge. That's why the lateral lunge is there, to give your biceps a break. We'll go in 3, 2, 1. Step it out. Row with the outside arm. Elbow comes toward the hip. Come to center, upright row, and to the other side. Out, elbow to hip, through center, and upright row. So I generally practice split sessions, so upper body and lower body split sessions. But I love a total body workout for what it gives to the energy inside the body. So it just unlocks something as you move the entire body with that little bit of load. So I hope you're there with me. Rest, feeling that unlocking quality where you have more circulation, more breath. You've got a little bit of sweat going and definitely feeling some endorphins. We'll come into that sumo squat with the bent elbow raise in 3, 2, 1. You've got your static hammer curl. Bend it down, take it out. Keep the shoulders away from the ears. Squeeze the heels to the midline as you come up. You should feel the inner thighs fire. You should feel the outer glutes fire. So really tap into your mind-muscle connection here. Where can you feel it? How can you make this lighter weight really challenging in the legs? Breathe. So where can you excavate more challenge, more difficulty, even with kind of your mid-range weight selection? And rest. So again, you can rack the weights between exercises if you wish. Coming into our curtsy lunge with the mini squat and bicep curl in between. So we're alternating sides here. We'll go in 3, 2, and 1. Curtsy, come to that mini squat and curl. Curtsy, down, mini squat, curl it up. We got this. Keep your spine nice and tall. So it's just moving up and down. We're not leaning forward or back. Curl it up. Especially as you come through that curl in the center, be mindful not to swing the weights so you are in control the whole way. Really creating that intentional contraction at the top of the curl and rest. Our next movement is the good morning with a tricep extension. So we're taking the weight behind you to the meaty part of the back. The feet are parallel, micro bend in the knees, and it's a hip hinge. Hug your elbows to the midline. Let's begin. Hinge forward, drive through the heels, hip extension, and then elbow extension. Bring it down, hinge, and extend. Press it up. You can take out some of the hard edges if you want to join these movements together. So it doesn't have to be sort of a pause at the end of each movement. You can flow one into the next. Especially with this lighter weight, you can explore that fluid pattern where you're not having to kind of pause and reset between each movement. Whatever feels best in your body. And rest. Wall sit with the Arnold press. Let's get into position here. Sliding down, hips are level with the knees. Came a little bit early in here because there's still 5 seconds to go. Let's bring those weights out in front of you, palms are facing you, and begin. Take it overhead, so really bracing the low belly by curling the tail slightly under and then drive into the ground with those heels. This is the end of round 2. We only have one more after this. Stay with me here all the way till the end. Breathing on the exertion as you take that weight overhead. Feel the shoulders strong. You are getting strong for 2 today. And rest. Be careful as you come out so you can step a bit wide, lean forward to slowly exit that body position. Coming into our reverse lunge with overhead press next. Top of round 3. This is it. Let's keep it strong all the way till the end and begin. Step it back. Take the weight overhead. Brace the belly as you lift those weights so that you're having to Rely on shoulder mobility rather than compensating by arching the low back to get the weight overhead. You're working strength and mobility in the shoulders. Definitely a key movement pattern to carry into newborn life, where you will have a little one in your arms for most of the time. This is great work, great postural strength to start that journey strong and rest. Deadlift to front raise. Connect with your breath, check in here. Use your practice as a way to really tune in to what's happening, any signals you might be receiving, and your breath is that greatest indicator. 2, 1, let's go. Hip hinge. So come to the knees or mid-shin, drive it up, front raise. So I am not pregnant right now, and this is still a very challenging workout. So just keep that in mind. If it starts to get tough, if you need to ditch the weights, that is 100% okay. Drive the weights up and front raise. So we're finding that power through the heels, extending and lifting out. Last, 3, 2, 1, and rest. Our narrow static curl squat with serve the platter comes next. We've got about 10 seconds. Shake it out. Let your legs loosen up just a little bit. 3, 2, 1. Find your static curl. It can be a bit wide if you need to create more space. Come up and serve the platter. So if you're going wide, maybe that top movement is slightly at an angle. That'll just create a little bit more challenge in the shoulders. Again, not swinging the weight as that load comes out away from the body. Keep it controlled. Squat down, drive through the heels, and take it out away. Driving up, 10 more seconds. I always know the tough ones when I'm looking at the clock. And 3, I'm going to do a second one here to even it out. 1, and rest. We come into our lateral lunge next. So that lateral lunge with a single arm bent row and the elbows coming straight back to the hip, not tilting up and dipping the shoulder forward. That's not a strong loading angle for the arm. Let's begin. Instead, you're coming out, keeping that shoulder open and driving the elbow to the hip, upright row. Take it out. Row, back, and up. So working 2 different rowing patterns, 2 different pull patterns here. So feel how that is different to the push pattern. How do you engage with the pulling movement as opposed to a push? Come through center, pull up. So you feel that time under tension on the way up. And rest. Sumo squat with a bent elbow, shoulder raise. We're coming in about 12 seconds. You'll have that static hammer curl and just take the elbows out wide. Let's go in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Squat it down. Squeeze the heels as you come up. Elbows wide. Hammer curl. Squat it down nice and deep. And up. So feel the stretch across the inner groin and then activate, pull to the center as you come up. So you're feeling kind of those 2 phases of the motion where we create length and space and then squeeze, contract into that space. Lower down, hug your elbows to your sides and then take them out and away. So we're focusing that movement here in the shoulder as we come up. And rest. Our next movement is the curtsy lunge with that mini squat and hammer curl or front curl in between. Going in about 10 seconds, just taking a grip break here. We are so close to the very end. 3, 2, and 1. Curtsy lunge. Take it slow through center, mini squat, and curl. Come up and into your second side. So find that fluid movement where you're connecting one part of the motion into the next. So it's nice and fluid, moving like water, no hard edges. And breathe here. We just have 2 exercises after this to finish strong. And rest. We are dropping down to our single weight for the good morning with tricep extension. So grab your weight, take it up and behind you. Create that strong alignment from the beginning. Hug the elbows in, upper arm bones rotating back behind you. Feet are parallel. Let's go. Hip hinge. Reach it out. Drive to extend the hips. Straighten the arms. Once you get the movement pattern, you can start to take out some of the edges. Move these one into the next. It's like the hip extension gives to the elbow extension. And then we bend back and down. Almost there. We just have our wall sit with that Arnold press to finish this workout so strong. And your cool down is calling. 3, 2, and 1. Grab your weights. Set up at the wall. Again, this one can be done body weight only. And you can be working mind-muscle connection. So you're doing the same movement in the upper body, just without the weight. No problem. Let's go in 3, 2, 1. Weights are out in front. Take it out, around, and up. Back down. So there's a bit of time under tension. The muscles are under tension even in that front resting position. You've got a bit of work in the shoulders there before you take it out and up. So feel that here. Stay in it. Press through the heels. Curl the tail slightly under. You got this. Last few seconds. Keep it strong. Find your breath. Maybe slow it down a little bit. Last 3, 2, and 1. Come out slowly, carefully. Out of that wall sit. You can set your weights off to the side. That is your total body workout for today. We are going to move into a quick cool down and stretch now. Let's begin our cooling movement. We'll take the feet nice and wide, and we'll just enjoy some lateral lunges with a bit of arm movement. So take the arms out wide like you're starting a push-up, and we're pushing out as we come up and back. So we're alternating in lateral lunges. You can take a bit of that pause out and just move it side to side. So we're meeting kind of that higher intensity with a lighter load here, but a bit of quick movement. So we don't want to come straight into our static stretches because that can cause your muscles to freeze up. So we want to meet our bodies, our breath, exactly where we are. So we can kind of start quick and then over time just start to slow it down. Maybe take out the arms and just move side to side. Breathing here. So the goal with this transition movement is to get your breath back to normal, where you can breathe in and out through the nose. You're not breathless or gasping through the mouth. Once you feel that you're at that point where you can breathe nice and easy, let's come through center. Reach the arms up. And as you exhale, gentle fold over the legs. Keep the head, heart, and hips in one line so that you're not risking any dizziness or lightheadedness. And just kind of shimmy the hips side to side here. Feel that forward bend. Shift the weight into the ball mounds of the feet. Take your left hand down, rotate your right arm open. Keep the hips nice and square. Hip creases stretching back behind you. And move this into the upper body. Exchange sides, right hand comes down, left arm spins open. Let the back stay, lower back stay nice and flat here. and come back through center. Walk to your right foot. Come into a lunge. So both feet facing forward. This can be a nice short stance in the lunge, so not too stretched out. In pregnancy, we have relaxin circulating through the body, so we don't really need to move into these really wide stretches. We want to focus more on that static stretch in a stable position. So we're lifting the opposite arm, the left arm up and over, stretching to the side. If you need a little bit of help activating around the pubic symphysis here, you can bring the outer edge of your right hand to the inner left knee and press to the midline. Lift that arm up and over. Feel that stretch in the side waist. So beneficial during pregnancy to help keep the torso open and spacious. Coming up through center here, and then we can take just a very gentle twist. So it's not compressing the belly at all, but take your left hand to the inner right knee and reach your right arm behind you. So really focusing this more in the upper back. We're not twisting the low abdomen, just allowing the upper back to be a little bit free. And come back up through center, and then take your hands to the inside of your right foot, heel toe the right foot out to the side, coming into more of a lizard pose. So you can let the hips drop down just a bit, but stay supported through the pelvis. So rather than collapsing and just letting the lax into the ligaments that support the pelvis, keep the stretch, but tone the low belly just a touch. Tone the pelvic floor just a touch. You'll still feel the stretch in that right hip, but it'll be more sustainable and won't risk kind of overextending the muscles in the pelvic floor. From here, we'll straighten that right leg any amount, might be a little, might be a lot, and walk your hands over to the left. So this is a great stretch to accommodate your growing belly. You have lots of space here. You can still get that great back of the leg stretch. You can move between a flexed foot and pointed toes until you feel the stretch that's right for you. Last big breath here. And then we'll simply take the right knee to join the left. Come up into a kneeling position. Take your hands behind your head, elbows wide. Press your head into your hands. Lift the heart up and open. So not bending into the low back at all here, just really stretching the back of the heart, lifting the sides of the waist. And then we'll release the hands, take your hands to your low back, now offering a bit of that bend in camel pose, supported camel. Hug the elbows in, thighs press forward, fill your glutes into your hands. During pregnancy, I don't like to take the head back simply because of what it can do to your breath. I want to avoid anything that's going to kind of promote lightheadedness or dizziness. Instead here, just focus on stretching very gently the front body so it's not pulling, not too tight. And slowly come up. Sway your hips side to side. So we'll take the hands down and switch to the left side now. Left leg is forward, coming into your lunge, reaching the arms up. Take your left hand to your left hip, right arm up and over. Again, if you need that little bit of activation in the groin, you can bring the back of your left hand to the inner left knee and squeeze equal and opposite action between the hand and the knee. This will allow you to really stretch out and open through the right side. Both arms reach up as you're ready, and then switch sides. So right hand comes to the inner knee. And don't worry if it doesn't touch, just create that activation to the center and take your left arm back behind you. So pushing equal and opposite action there and really just rotating in the upper back. So in these total body workouts, especially where we did a lot of upper body work, you can find that you might start to round over time throughout the day. So here we're just focusing on creating that space and openness in the upper body. Come through center, both arms reach. Take the hands to the inside of the left foot, heel toe it out to the side. Lizard pose. Again here, not collapsing into that hip stretch, but keeping a gentle tone by curling the tail toward the pubic bone toward the navel. So you can still get a great stretch without compromising the stability in the pelvis. And then straighten the left leg any amount. Walk your hands over to the right. Oof, feel maybe a slight difference from one side to the other. So that's where working one side at a time, where possible during pregnancy, is so beneficial to help keep the hips balanced and strong. And then we're slowly coming back through center here. We'll take that left knee back into a kneeling position. Thread the needle, let your right arm twist open, and take it under the left arm here. Bringing right ear toward the mat. Just a gentle twist so that this doesn't have to be your maximum expression here. Just enough to get the outer arm, the outer shoulder. And as you come up, re-extend that right arm. This time, bring your right forearm to the lower back. The fingertips can wrap around your left hip, and then dial the right shoulder into alignment square with the left. So you have the shoulders facing the earth, and then take your left ear toward the left shoulder. You should feel the right side of the neck really stretch. Move the chin forward and back. Especially after any upper body work, I love this stretch. And slowly release that hand down, exchanging sides. Left arm reaches and thread it under. Again here, just facilitating a bit of rotation in the upper back, stretching your sitting bones skyward, shining the tailbone and the sitting bones back. And as you come up through center, take your left forearm to the lower back. Wrap your left fingertips around the right hip and then square the shoulders. Take your right ear to your right shoulder. Move the chin forward and back. It's really just exploring what you need in the neck, in the shoulder here, so that you walk away free of tension and release. Flip the grip of your hands. Bring the fingertips toward the knees, giving the forearms a bit of a stretch here, the wrists a bit of a stretch. They can get super tight during pregnancy. Shift your shoulders back over the wrists, and cat-cow here. So we inhale, soften the belly, gaze up, shine the sitting bones. And exhale, cat, round the tail under, chin to chest, press through the upper back. Inhale, cow pose, stretch, extend, lengthen. And exhale, round, curl in. Last one like this. Inhale. And exhale. Really stretch those forearms one last time. Feels so good. And then take the hands out in front of you. Walk the arms long. Find puppy pose. Relax the forehead to the mat. Wag your tail side to side. Not only is this my favorite pose, but it is my daughter's favorite pose. She loves to wag her tail in puppy, stretching her spine. You're setting in motion this active mindset. Come back up. This movement, this relationship to self, to body, you're creating that for you and your little one here in your practice. Step your feet to your hands, nice and slow. Deep bend in the knees, ragdoll for a moment. Let your head hang heavy if that feels okay. And then slowly, bone by bone, we roll up to stand. That is our lower body cool down. Let's take a big breath together. Inhale, reach the arms up and out. And sigh, let it go. Thank you so much for joining me for this practice, this full body work, just to keep you moving, to keep your circulation strong, and to help elevate your mood during this pregnancy. I so appreciate you letting Lunge be a part of your movement journey. It is such an honor. Thank you for letting your body be moved.